Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jessie and today we are talking Louis Tomlinson's All of Those Voices documentary. Now, there's a lot of footage that I have from this somewhere just rotting because it's like 20 full minutes of me trying to react to this. What I realized is that I actually can't do that. The program will not let me. It won't let me screen record, which means that this is just gonna be a sit down talking video. Maybe just for humor's sake, I will insert clips of me just being really annoyed and disgruntled for like 5 minutes. What happened to my screen? Okay. It's just black. Oh my god. Ugh. Oh my, how am I supposed to watch this? This is just upsetting. So I think we're just gonna talk. So I am now post meltdown. We're just gonna have a little chit chat, a little sleepover. I might get some hot chocolate later, maybe some tea. We don't know. I am wearing my Louis red. But with all that said, I'm so excited to finally watch this film. Basically, I didn't watch it in theaters because I was waiting to react to it with you guys. Clearly that's not going to happen, so I could have just gone and seen it in theaters. Okay, we're not gonna get annoyed again, Anyway, before we start the discussion, I did just put out my debut album, Gravity. Roll the trailer.
My new single, Gravity.
My brand new single, Test the Water.
My new single, Junebug.
Love Struck Smile.
My brand new single, Breathing.
My new single, Audible.
My new single, Choices.
But yeah, it would mean the whole wide world if you went and listened to the album. Comment down below which is your favorite song off the album. But yeah, if you do listen to my music, let me know in the comments because I want to be able to personally thank you. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell because it really helps me out. Don't forget to follow me on Spotify and Instagram. That's where I like update everything so you'll get to stay in the know. I have actually been posting more consistently on Instagram, so it's been fun over there. Give this video a like if you end up liking it. And let's talk about this. Let's discuss. Okay, so we start off the film with him having some great times with his band and like touring now, and then the clock like flits back to 2010 when he was just a little tiny baby auditioning for the X Factor. I never saw that season because it was the British X Factor. I did see the one with Fifth Harmony though. But he talks about auditioning for it and then getting in, and he very quickly starts to talk about how him and the band became like best friends. He was just so happy to be there. He was so happy to be doing this with them, touring all over the world. He was just having the best time. And then when Zayn left, it felt like the beginning of the end. Y'all have told me in the comments before that like Louis wasn't expecting One Direction to split up, and like I definitely believed that, but it was interesting to me because with like Zayn, clearly he wanted to leave, and with Harry, I think clearly he was excited to go and kind of do his solo stuff, and I wasn't sure whether it was more like, oh, Louis was like, oh, I'm sad for the fans, like I'm sad that we're no longer gonna be able to get to do that, but he was kind of like, you know, like I'm excited to start my solo career. But no, like he said that he was very blindsided, and he just kind of wanted to like keep doing this with them for much longer than I think a lot of the other boys wanted to. I don't know about Liam and Niall and how they felt about it, but it definitely feels like there was a divide of like some of the group members wanting to go solo and him not wanting that. When they said like a break, he was like, okay, like a break, but he didn't know that the break would be indefinite. It really feels like he was kind of blindsided, which I can relate to a lot. Sometimes I'm so scared of getting blindsided that I always think like the worst is gonna happen. I can't always pick up on the fact that maybe other people are trying to move on or they're done, or I can pick up on the fact that something's wrong, but I can't like put my finger on it specifically. You know that feeling when you're just like, something's off, something's different. Is it just me? Is it in my head? Am I just overthinking things? Knowing myself and how I feel in those situations, I just feel for Louis because he must have been like second guessing himself so much, so scared. Like, is this band going to break up? Are we done? Is this break real? It makes me wonder, like when they said, let's go on a break, did the band and their management have have any intention of that break coming to an end and having them come back together? Or was it more like the break was a way to like pacify the fans and even some of the band members, or kind of like slowly easing people into the idea that the band was going to disintegrate? Was it just easier to say they're going on a hiatus and then them never coming back, as opposed to being like they're done for good? Or was there actually talks of them maybe coming back? I guess like that's what I'm wondering, you guys. Let me know in the comments. I think what's also so interesting is that Louis talks about how reliant he was on the band and how he felt like this was it for him. Like that's what he wanted. He wanted to keep doing that with them. He had never envisioned a solo career, which is so interesting to me and so funny because, you know, we went through and we reacted to all the One Direction albums and I love them. They like are such a special place in my heart. You know, there are a few songs that I definitely like go back and listen to a lot, and there are definitely a few songs from the other boys' discography that I listen to, especially I think Harry. And I've done Niall reactions and Zayn reactions to the channel, and there's still, again, in each of their discographies, a few songs I really, really love, and I'm excited for all their future work and to like react to that. But like Louis is my favorite. He is the one who puts out music that speaks to me the most, and I think it's interesting how he was the one who like didn't want the group to end. I was afraid of the solo career, yet he went on to be my favorite solo artist. And you know, maybe he's not like as big as Harry and Zayn, or maybe he's not on The Voice like Niall, but like his music has a special place in my heart, and I know that it has a special place in all of your hearts as well. And it's just interesting to hear him kind of go from that to where he is now after everything that he has accomplished, and I'm just really, really, really proud of him. I'm such a fangirl, I literally can't. Now we're getting into Louis talking about his place in the band. He shares a story about how he was like so excited to be featured on the second verse of this really important single, and they gave it to Harry instead, and he felt like out of control. Oh, that's like the worst feeling ever, when you're like, oh yeah, like I'm doing this thing, and then it's taken away from you, and no one even has the decency to be like, hey, actually we're gonna give it to someone else. You're literally sitting there waiting for it, and then it never comes. Like that is the most heartbreaking thing. I guess the only good that came from it was he realized that like in order to have agency and say, he would have to find like his purpose and his niche in the band, and he talks about how that is songwriting for him. He has the most writing credits, and I think that that's why Louis is my favorite. For me, songwriting is always the most important thing. My favorite thing to listen to, like when I'm reacting to the songs and the albums, I'm mostly looking for lyrics, melody, and then like what they do with it, with the production. I'm just really mesmerized by Louis' songwriting. I think his lyricism is great. And so to know that he like kind of found his niche and his like special place in the band through songwriting makes me feel really connected to him, because like I feel like that is my strength too. And I feel like there are people who are maybe like, I don't know, a better singer than me. Like I know I'm a good singer, but like there are people who can like belt and go crazy and all this stuff, and I've always felt like my strength lies within the songs that I create, and so I can kind of relate to him in that way. Hi Thea. Oh hey Bubby. Hi Nunu. Hey sweet. Okay, bye. Thanks Queen. Okay, let's get into the portion where we talk about Louis' mom, Joanna, and his sister as well, Felicity. Whew, I don't know how a human being can go through what he went through and still do what he did. He goes on and he does his first ever solo performance, and it's on X Factor. And he says that he does it for his mom because that's what she would have wanted. I think that takes a real big maturity on his part to understand that like she would want him to be happy. We also get a lot of snippets from his other sisters, and you can just tell like how immensely proud of him that they are. But it's just a really touching, very heartfelt part of his story, and I'm really glad that he's like touching on it. And I hope that like everything he's sharing is just whatever he feels that he wants to share in the moment. And yeah. We're now getting into the portion where he's talking about finding his own direction. That was actually an accidental pun. I did not mean to do that. He was feeling already down because of everything that he had just gone through, losing One Direction, losing his mom, losing his sister. There's a quote specifically in the film where someone says that he is just treading water, trying to like get to where he wants to be, and he just feels like he needs this break because so much bad has happened. And he's like, when is it going to be my turn? And he talks about how he could envision the other boys going on their solo careers, but he couldn't envision himself based on the path that he was going on, which was, from my memory of reacting to his earlier music, very much like pop, like bombastic pop, almost trying to like continue what One Direction was doing, but like a bit more of an electronic sound and like this like bad boy image. I don't know. But you can tell by the film that he's not enjoying himself. It's not what he wants to be doing. And he talks about how people's comments online being like, you do what you want to do, make what you want to make, and we will support you, gave him the confidence to finally follow his gut feeling and make the music that he wants to make. Thank goodness he did. Can you imagine if he just kept releasing music that he wasn't passionate about? He would not have the career that he has today. And that's just a lesson to everyone. Like, make what you want to make, even though like pop is obviously like the biggest genre. If that's not what you want to do, don't make that. It's better to be like the original version of you than just like a copy of someone else. And that's cliche, but I think it's what Louis realized. And it's really beautiful how the fans and y'all's support like helped him realize that. And then he's talking about how like Kill My Mind on Walls was like the first time he felt like, I am making what I want to make. And I love Kill My Mind so much. And it's just like, I'm so happy for him. And as we go through the film, something that I realized, I was like, wait, Helena was his vocal coach in One Direction. Like, he was the boys' coach, wasn't she? And then she went with Louis. I had just assumed that like he had found her or she had found some other way, but they actually were together during the One Direction days. And that's just such a little interesting tidbit of information that was nice to glean. So they go like way back. I don't know, we obviously all love her because she like helped him out so much to like find his confidence in his voice, but also she's just like been a real one. She's been there like from the long haul. So I can see like why you guys just adore her so much. Like, so many of my comments are just like, we stan Helena. I'm like, me too. Louis goes on to talk about fame and how it's kind of impacting him and how it kind of takes him a second. He's like, give me a second. And just watching his interactions with fans, and these fans are so sweet. They're so like calm. They're like, hi, can I get a picture? Like, so lovely. And he's so lovely back, and it's a lovely interaction. But I can see how it would be like overwhelming to have like a group of people each wanting a picture, and you're like just trying to get to your car, and you're like, yeah, okay, like, da 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 da. Like, I don't even know how I would react in that situation. I think I would actually have to do like breathing exercises because I get very excited. Knowing myself, I'll be at like a show performing, and like my friend who I like know and love well and see all the time is like, you were so good. And I'm like, thank you so much. And like, I just know that like, if I was in a situation where there were like a bunch of people, I would just like either be like, oh my God, or I would just like shut down and be like, okay, thank you so much. I feel like he's very smart because he just kind of goes through the motions, and he does what he needs to do. But he does say that there is a bit of an adjustment period because you're going from one space where you're like completely yourself and you're off and you're fine, and then you step from like the building outside to the parking lot, and then there's like a whole slew of people, and all of a sudden you have to be on. And there's a little period of being like, whoa, like, let me get used to it. It's like when you step outside and the sun like blinds your eyes and you need a second, right? And he kind of talks about that there, and it's such an interesting look from a celebrity's perspective. He goes very in depth about it, explaining kind of the emotions and the feelings that he goes through when he experiences those things. We get into another really beautiful but heartbreaking portion in the documentary about his family. He's so good at seeing such a bright side in things. Like, he talks about how his biological dad like wasn't in the picture, but he's like, it didn't matter because my mom like gave him enough love for both of them, and how him and his mom were like best friends, and she never let him miss out on anything in his childhood and like put him first. And you can see how much of a family bond they had, especially, you know, there's a segment where his grandfather is like talking about his daughter and like needs a moment. They talk about how it made him resilient in a lot of ways and very, very, very strong in a lot of ways. And it's really beautiful to see kind of the way that his sisters and his grandparents talk about him and his mom and their relationship and what that meant. It was just really beautiful to see his family speak of him so highly. He shares a memory of when he wanted to audition for Grease at his high school. He was like calling his mom and he's like, oh, I don't think I want to do it. Like, I'm too scared. And she literally was like, no, like, you are auditioning for Grease. I will literally come pick you up right now and drive you to the audition if you don't go. It made me like laugh and smile to hear about that, because like a similar situation kind of happened with me and my mom, where I was in like grade 9, so I was the youngest age you could be in high school, and there were these like jazz choir auditions. Like, I'd never sang jazz before or anything, and there was like the jazz choir. The regular choir was like anyone could go in, but the jazz choir was like you had to audition. And I remember seeing it and being like, oh, that'd be so fun. But then I went home that night and I told my mom like, yeah, like the auditions are tomorrow, but I don't think I'm gonna audition. I think I'm gonna wait till next year when I'm just like more prepared in terms of like understanding jazz a bit more and when I've had more experience under my belt, because I'm also young too. And she was like, no, like go audition for it. Like, what's the worst that can happen? So I auditioned and I got in, and then from that the school jazz band wanted a singer, and so then my vocal teacher, like my choir instructor from jazz choir, was like, you have to get Jessie to do it. And so then I was the jazz singer in my high school for 3 years, and they were such, oh my god, they were an amazing band because of our band director. Like, they did not sound like a high school. They did not sound like a high school. Like, then I went to university and like they were like better than the band at my university. Like, they were incredible, and it was just such an honor to like play with them. I learned so much in that band that I never ever would have learned otherwise. Like Gravity, the title track off my album Gravity, it opens with a trill. It goes gravity. I never would have been inspired to do that if I hadn't like listened to Ella Fitzgerald and Billie Holiday and like the greats, and so many like chord progressions I learned through being in jazz band. It was the best learning experience I've ever been a part of. I never would have gotten jazz band if I hadn't been in jazz choir, and I never would have gotten in jazz choir that year and gotten into jazz band, because I would have just picked another singer by that point if my mom hadn't been like, no, go audition. And so it's just like a really heartwarming story, because I bet you if he didn't have that experience as Danny, like he wouldn't have had the same confidence to go and be on the X Factor, and that changed his life, and it was all because of his mom. We get some more of Helena, which we always love. We stand her. And she's like putting him in his place a bit. She's like, are you gonna have fun tonight? And he's like, no, because he's going to perform and then he's gonna go on tour for Walls. And she's like, you have literally been crying for 4 years about not being on tour, so don't even, I don't want to hear it. But like, I understand, like when you put that much practice into a show, you want it to go perfectly. And he talks about how he's upset at himself because he'll go on stage and he'll listen back to his performance and he's like, that's off key, that's wrong, that's out of tune, da 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 da. First of all, it's never going to sound as good recorded as it does live. There will be times where I will literally go and like see a band perform or see someone perform and hear them, and I'm like, they sounded like an angel. They were perfect. They hit every note perfectly. And then like I'll record some of it on my phone and I go back and listen to it on my phone and it's like slightly off, and I'm like, oh, they don't sound as good on the phone. Or like even whatever recording software you're using, it's just not going to ever sound as good. And there's another layer of listening to yourself, because if you are listening back to another person, you're more likely to think that they're doing well than if you listen back to yourself. You're gonna like hear all of these problems, because when you're singing and you're hearing yourself sing in rehearsal, you're not just hearing the sound out here, you're actually hearing the bone conduction. You're hearing sounds from your bones. It's a different sound than if you're outside hearing it. So not only is there that added layer of the phone, there's that added layer of it being outside of your own body. And you can see his own vocal coach is like, I believe in you, like you sound great. She's like, Walls is such a hard song to sing. You've been bodying it every single time, you've killed it, you're doing amazing. And he's like, no, he's not listening. And she said something that was so intriguing to me. She's like, you have an obligation to your fans. Now, what she was talking about, she's not thinking that he's gonna quit and not go on stage. She knows he's going on stage. She's saying that because she's like, you have an obligation to your fans to have fun, because no fan wants to be at a concert knowing that there's a possibility that the person they're watching isn't having a good time performing for them. And that's something I've had to learn too, because I am the most critical person of my own performance and own voice, and I hate watching myself back. That's like actors who despise watching their own films. I think Louis suffers from that a lot, and I know I suffer from it too, where I'm just like, oh, that could have been so much better, like I suck, and people are like, no, it was literally good, like you're fine. So I think I relate to him a lot in that way, but it's definitely reassuring to see someone else kind of having these thoughts about themselves, and he's so successful and I admire him so much. So I guess it's reassuring to kind of see that like other successful people have these doubts, and that it's okay to have those doubts sometimes, but then you've just got to like go up on stage and have fun. That is what is going to be most important to your audience. If they can see that you're having fun, they honestly don't even care if you're like, if you miss a note or like you sing something wrong. Luckily, Louis does realize that what is important is how he's influencing the fans in front of him, and he gives a better performance because of that. You always give a better performance when you're not like focused on your vocals and you're just having a good time. Like, can confirm. Basically, I performed at the Burlington Performing Arts Center near Toronto, and it was like a really big deal because I was performing with four-time Juno nominee Sarah Sleen. She's such a great person and so amazing, like so talented. For the first few songs especially, like I was just so nervous about my voice, and because it was such a high profile like play, like it was very expensive, like the tickets were expensive, so it was mostly like older people, and I knew I had this other gig coming up which was more at like a dive bar kind of setting, and all my friends were coming to that, whereas like older family was coming to the more like prestigious gig or whatever. And at this prestigious gig, I was very worried about hitting my vocals more than anything, because none of them are like fans, like they don't like know the words, so this is all new to them, so I'm just trying to deliver my songs to the best of my ability. And then I go to the Casbah, where like all my friends are there who like religiously stream my music and like know all the words, and they're so sweet, and they were like screaming the songs and like dancing with me, and I just let go and had fun, and like I just didn't care about my voice at all. And the funny thing is that I really, because I was focusing so hard on my voice for the BPAC performance, I watched that video back, and then I watched the Casbah video back, the one with my friends, and my parents were like, you are so much better in the Casbah video, where you're just like dancing and having fun and not like caring or worrying. You're literally a better performer when you don't think about it and you just do and you have fun. Like they're like, it was vastly more entertaining. There's just a rush that you get when you see people standing there singing your songs back at you, where you're just smiling. You don't care about anything else except for like the energy and the vibe, and like that's why I love performing, and I know that that's why he loves performing too. And it's just so cool to like see him realize that when I just realized that like a month ago. Oh, I just love him so much. We then get into the segment where he talks about COVID and how he was forced to cancel the rest of his tour. A lot of the footage is repeated from the Away From Home festival, but I have so much more context for it now, not only because I've watched the beginning of this documentary, but because you guys have told me so much about Louis. And he says this one line, I forget exactly what it is, but something about like, I thought it was finally catching a break now. Like I thought I was finally like happening. And he's like, I've been waiting longer than most. And I really didn't truly understand the depth of that before. Like the first time I heard him say that line, I didn't understand the depth of it, because he literally has been through like so much. He's fought tooth and nail to release music he wants to release. He's like, it took 4 years to, you know, between the last One Direction album and this album to get put out, and he is just like biting at the nail to finally be able to fly. And right as he's about to like flap his wings and soar, the rug gets like taken from under him again after One Direction and him not expecting that to end. And then after his mom, his sister, him doing music for so long that he didn't want to do. And it's just like, seeing that is so heartbreaking. But then I remember that we got Faith in the Future World Tour, and I'm like, it's gonna be okay. Like, he's gonna get to soar. Let's talk about the Walls tour. We finally resume the Walls tour, and people are camping out like this means the world to people. Like one person like wrote an essay trying to convince their parents why they should be allowed to camp out again. Because they just like met like new best friends, and like the concert was just so amazing. And there was one person who was like, I didn't know if I was gonna also camp out in like this other city or whatever, night two, I don't remember what it was. Then they were like, but then like if it's anything like that concert, then I have to do it again. And like as someone who went to the Faith in the Future World Tour, can confirm that it's just such an amazing time. Like, go watch my Faith in the Future concert vlog if you're interested. But something that was so telling about who he is as a person is one of his bandmates was talking about how like in the tour bus there's this back lounge where a lot of artists will like convert that into a bedroom, which is like totally valid and fine and makes sense to do. But he's like, no, like Louis literally just kept that as a lounge, and like he sleeps in the bunk beds like the rest of us, and then we all like hang out in the lounge. So he really like made sure everyone knew that like he doesn't feel like he's above anybody else. Like he is happy to just hang out with his friends, and I think that that's the best way to be, not only as an artist but like as a person. His son comes to his first Louis Tomlinson show ever, and overall Louis is just having a fantastic time. Freddie's attendance to the show is so cute, and like they bring him backstage and Louis just immediately like runs to him. And what I notice about their interactions too is that he's very like huggy and affectionate with his son. That's like obviously the bare minimum, like fathers should always be that way with their sons, but it's just like not as common as it should be. And so when I do see someone like Louis, who is a father who's like extremely like huggy and kissy and like, ooh, and like he's saying like, that's my favorite show and I love you so much, and like you can tell that he's a very affectionate person. He's not one of those dads who's like, you need to toughen up and da 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 da. And that was just like a really beautiful, reassuring thing to see, just how like huggy and like supportive and loving his words were as well. So many men think that they shouldn't hug their sons, like, which is crazy. But to see somebody that affectionate with their son is going to have a huge impact on their son's life. I just think that that's really important, and I wish that there were more fathers out there who would show like love and affection to their literal child. Don't think that's too much to ask, but here we are. Even like Helena at one point, she's like, oh, he comes across as this tough guy, but when he's with his son, he like melts. Like he's like crying, he has tears in his eyes, he's so lovey-dovey, and it's just like really great to know that like he has that side to him. We got a really silly, fun, weird, interesting part of the documentary, which I'm gonna call tour shenanigans, because what in the world? First of all, we cut to this shot where they're like in this, I think like heated outdoor pool. You know, what are those things in Iceland where it's like, it's naturally heated and you're just like, hoo hoo hoo, and there's like mountains or whatever, or some sort of like naturally heated pool, like just from nature. I don't know. Anyway, and it's like this really like dark, like kind of music. Slowly it appears on screen like, Louis and the boys went out for so-and-so's birthday. And it was so ominous. I was like, oh my god, is someone gonna get hurt? Like, what's happening? 5 minutes go by and it's just like them holding beers like in a pool, being like, ha ha ha, so fun, we're so tired, so fun. Why was it edited that way? I was like, oh my god, we're gonna get some like really bad news, and then it's just them having fun. Did any of you guys feel that way, or was I just like missing the vibe check? We get to more tour shenanigans where they're racing, because he used to be fast when he was like 16 or something, and he's like, ha ha ha, like wouldn't it be so fun to race? And then he like gets injured. What does he do? Like, does he break his arm? Was it a sprain? Was it a break? I don't know. All I know is that that man was in an ambulance. This is why I don't do physical activity. This is why I ran away from the ball in gym class. You know that? I once won dodgeball in gym class because I was so good at running away from the ball. You could not find me doing physical exertion on my tour. Like, good job for these guys. Running on purpose. Could not be me. Thankfully, I guess his arm is healed because he goes and finishes tour. He talks about how he loves to jump into the pit. And I remember when I went to go see him with my amazing bestie and producer, Emma, Slay Emma, we were just shocked because all of a sudden he had just like, yoop, and like jumped into the pit. We were like, oh my god, is he okay? Someone at our show, and this person literally commented, was it this person or was it someone else explained? I don't know. Someone commented on my video, on that tour video, oh my god, what am I talking about? On that show video, like that concert vlog, being like, oh yeah, like someone had a sign being like, take a drink with us or something. And then he was like, okay, and then just did it. That man has no fear. That is just so cute, like the way that he treats his fans. And we've gotten a lot of snippets too of fans being like, there's no one like the relationship between him and his fans. There's even this group of people, and it's like different groups as well, but like they'll be interviewed at a bunch of shows and they're like, yeah, like we followed him from like show to show to show to show to show, except we're like sleeping on concrete and y'all are in a tour bus. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that is dedication. I wish I loved something that much. Well, actually, I love my cat that much, but nothing else. Sorry, my cat tops all. No, I love Louis fans. Literally, y'all are the best. Y'all are the nicest. Y'all always make me feel so welcome. Let's talk about the band. Oh, I love them. They're so sweet. I still remember that one guy who I'm just like, Phineas? If you watched my reaction to Away From Home Festival, I was like, is that Phineas? Like Billie Eilish's brother? And it's not. But it still looks like him to me. Every time I see him, I'm like, Phineas, Phineas. But they're talking about how like they were scared to go into Louis' dressing room because they've played shows with people who were like so arrogant that they're like, don't even come in my dressing room. Like, I just could never imagine that. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. The fact that some people literally are like that is so ridiculous. Like, I actually can't. I'm also just lucky because like I have such a great band. Like my bandmates, Emma and Marshall, they are just like the most wonderful people. And we're also like best friends too. Well, Marshall, poor thing, is like an hour away, so we don't get to see him often, but me and Emma are like besties. And when we do get to see Marshall, it's so much fun. I just love hanging out with them. We like had a board game day and like all this stuff, and I just can't imagine like not being friends with your bandmates. I don't understand how you could play music together and not be friends. What is even the point? Like, huh? Like half the fun is like the friends you meet along the way, you know what I mean? And like that's what I always wanted in a producer and in bandmates, is like people who were like friends with me. It was more than just we're gonna sit here and do music. We could relate about life stuff, and like I'm so glad that he's found that with his band. That makes me so happy. Ooh, we're getting into the Away From Home Festival, and y'all are so sweet because the number of y'all who told me that like, oh my gosh, Louis is like looking for applications to like open for the Away From Home Festival for like bands all over the world. And the number of people who like commented under his post being like, oh my gosh, get this girl. Like, that is so sweet of y'all. Obviously he did not choose me. That makes complete sense. There are so many applicants who are just so amazing, but it was such a cool like thing to be able to submit that to him. And the fact that y'all were like commenting under his post, like, you should get Jesse Adams. Like, I was like showing my friends, I was like, you guys, like, I have the sweetest, most amazing subscribers in the entire world. Like, look what they're writing. Y'all are so incredible. Like, oh, like, I love you so much. I love you, I love you, I love you. Seriously though, like, I actually cannot thank you enough. We get some more shots from the Away From Home Festival, which again, I did react to. And then we have the most like, not gonna cry. We have the most beautiful thing that he says at the end, where clearly a producer off screen asks him like, do you feel like you deserve this? And he just kind of nods to himself and he goes, yeah, I feel like I do deserve this. And that's the first time I think I've like said that out loud. And it's such a beautiful journey to see. At the beginning of the documentary, we have him talking about he didn't know what his place was. He didn't know what his worth was in the music industry, and slowly over time he learned what it was. From not knowing his place in the band to becoming the person with the most writing credits, to then feeling hopeless again because the band was ending, and then trying to go on this solo career and has to deal with his mom and sister passing away, fighting to make the solo music that he really wants to make, to where his label isn't believing in him, but the fans believe in him. So he makes this record that he wants to make and he's like ready to fly. And then COVID happens. But he persists and he finishes out the Walls tour, but it's even bigger than he ever could have imagined. And he's writing Faith in the Future, and he's doing the Away From Home Festival, and he's made these new like best mates. His relationship with his family is so wonderful, specifically like his grandparents and his sisters and his son getting to see his show. And it was just such a beautiful journey to see him go from like not knowing where his place was in this band to knowing exactly where his place was in this world as him. And it was just like such a good documentary. Like, oh, that was so amazing to watch. I can't believe I finally watched it. could have watched it at the theater. We won't get into that. We won't get into that again. Oh my gosh, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I just want to like discuss in the comments, like, what were your thoughts on the documentary? Like, was there anything that surprised you? Anything that you didn't know going into it that this documentary kind of shed light on? Because like, y'all are like super fans of Louis, and so you like know pretty much everything. So like, was there anything in this specific documentary that he talked about that you didn't really like know before, or that you saw that you actually didn't know before? What enlightened you? Yeah, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell. Follow me on Instagram and Spotify. Don't forget to listen to my music. It means like the whole entire world when you do. Give this video a like if you liked it. Give this video a like if you hated it. And I will see you next time.